Hi, the videos this week are going to be on computer hardware and software, and I'm going to try to keep them short. So it'll be several fairly short videos with one quiz at the end of the hardware videos and one quiz at the end of the software videos. So the first thing we're going to talk about in terms of hardware is inputs and outputs. This is a pretty simple concept, and some of these answers will be very obvious. So inputs are the way we put information into devices, and outputs are the way we get information out. So like the most standard input is a keyboard, obviously. And the next one would be a mouse, although for some reason I put scanner second on the list. I should fix that at some point. But things like keyboard, mouse, scanner, we're in the music business. So things like a microphone would count. Also cameras, touch screens, any way that we give information to the computer counts as an input. Also things like a game controller. And really for these purposes, we talk about things like this essentially as a computer. So sometimes I'll use the word device because phones and iPads and those sorts of things can count as well. So then in the output space, obviously the screen is the most common way that we get information from our computers. A printer would do that. Speakers give us sound information. And then other things. We can be creative with ways that we get information out of our computers. You might think of something like the haptic feedback on a game controller, where it vibrates when certain things happen in the game. That's a way that the computer is giving you information. So I ask us to think about these inputs and outputs because it really gives us a way to look at how we interact with the machine. In music space, we have some specific input and output hardware. We usually call these audio interfaces. This is an audio interface that you're looking at. It's made by Motu. So they usually connect via USB. Some of them have a card slot that you actually insert if you have a desktop machine. This is an older photo, so it's actually got FireWire plugs that I just covered up when I made that little thing pop up. There you go. So it connects via FireWire. And they have input and output. So you'll see there's a microphone input there. There's also on the back another microphone input. And lots of output, so you get your main speaker outs. But you also have multi-track outs, so if you're doing multiple speakers or sending to other places. This also handles MIDI input and output. And we'll talk about MIDI a lot more later in the course, but just so you know, MIDI stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and it's music data, not audio. And we'll talk about that a whole bunch more later. But for now, I'm going to stop here at the audio interface, which is our music industry centered or music creation centered input and output device.